Welcome. Settle in. Let your body grow still, your mind soften, and your breath find a gentle rhythm. You're here to drift not through dreams just yet, but through time. Tonight, we are stepping away from emperors and triumphal arches. There will be no parades, no marble statues, no golden laurel crowns. Instead, we slip into the cracks between columns, into the smoky courtyards and rickety stairwells where real Romans lived their very real, and often uncomfortable, lives. This is not the Rome of postcards and movies. This is the Rome of the Insula, the tenement housing where most citizens dwelled. It is the scent of damp stone and old olive oil. It is shouting neighbors, creaking beams, and the faint, constant threat of fire. In this episode, we'll explore what it truly meant to live in the shadows of greatness. To be ordinary in an extraordinary empire. We'll begin with your new address, a sixth-floor apartment in a Roman insula. From there, we'll follow the twisted fate of an emperor who thought he was a god, peer into the secret world of forbidden cults, and end our journey at a luxurious banquet far from the wooden walls of your home. So, lie back. Let the past rise like mist around you. The stones of Rome remember, and tonight, they will tell you their quieter stories. Imagine yourself waking up, not in your own bed, but on a straw-stuffed mattress resting atop cracked clay tiles. It's dark. The single oil lamp flickers beside you, casting shadows that dance along the smoke-stained walls. You're on the top floor of a Roman insula, one of the towering apartment blocks built hastily and cheaply to house Rome's ever-growing population. You live 6 stories up, and there's no elevator, no handrail, no luxury, just endless stairs, worn smooth by thousands of footsteps and just uneven enough to trip on in the dark. There is no insulation. The summer heat seeps in through the roof tiles. In winter, the cold creeps through the thin wooden walls. There is no fireplace. Fire is dangerous here, and yet, ironically, always lurking. You pull on your tunic. It's rough, scratchy wool, mended too many times to count. The air is thick, not fresh, not quite foul, but full of the layered sense of life. Warm bread baking downstairs, oil smoke, urine, rot, and always a hint of ash. The latrine, it's outside, several flights down. Unless you're willing to brave the communal facilities at dawn, you'll be making use of a chamber pot, which will be emptied into the alley below later. Hopefully with a warning shout. You head out into the hallway. Someone is already yelling on the floor below. Arguments in the stairwell are common about water, debts, noise, or nothing at all. Children dart between your legs. You press on, past a neighbor sharpening knives and another hauling amphory of water, one for drinking, one for washing. Water doesn't flow in pipes here, not at your level. The aqueducts feed the city's grand fountains and public baths, but up here, the luxury ends. You fetch water from a vendor or drag it up yourself from the communal cistern. You pass a baker's shop as you descend. The heat is almost overwhelming. The oven glows orange in the back room. The baker's assistant, drenched in sweat, slaps dough into pans with practiced speed. Outside, lines form. Bread is life here. Sometimes it is even given out as part of the state's grain dole panem et circenses, bread and circuses, to keep the people content. You keep walking. The alleyways are tight, the ground sticky. Someone has spilled wine or worse. Above you, laundry hangs between buildings. It flaps like faded banners in the breeze. Below you, rats dart between shadows. You reach the marketplace. It's alive. Fishmongers shout. Children beg. Sellers display wares ranging from garum fermented fish sauce that perfumes the air to rough pottery and knockoff jewelry. The noise is relentless. The smells, dizzying. You've been up for an hour, and you're already tired. You're a leather worker's assistant today. The shop smells of hide and vinegar. Your hands will ache from the stitching. Your back from the bent-over hours. Your meals? A slice of bread, maybe a bit of cheese. Sometimes lentils or figs, if you're lucky. And water, always questionable unless mixed with vinegar. Or cheap wine, if you can spare the coin. There's no privacy, no peace. You share your room, sometimes your bed. If one person snores, everyone hears it. If someone gets sick, everyone gets sick. And if a fire breaks out in the night, and it often does, the entire building may vanish before sunrise. Roman fire brigades exist, yes, but they are slow, corrupt, and sometimes demand payment before lifting a bucket. Still, you climb your 6 flights of stairs again at the end of the day. Your knees creak. The stairwell is dim, the walls sticky. You pass a neighbor weeping softly and another vomiting over the edge of a landing. At last, You reach your door hinged with leather straps and sealed with a wooden bar. You light your lamp, wrap yourself in a blanket, if you have one, and try to forget the creaking beams above your head. And you hope, as you do each night, that this insula does not fall. It happens, you know. They collapse. They burn. They crumble into themselves like poorly stacked amphorae. And when they do, there are no headlines. Only whispers in the morning markets and a quick clearing of debris. But tonight, you're safe. Safe enough. The streets below hum with distant laughter and faraway arguments. The city is alive, always alive. And you, in your tiny room in the sky, are a small part of its endless rhythm. Now, shift your thoughts from the teetering rooftops of the Insula to the vast corridors of the imperial palace. You've left behind the smell of ash and leather. Now, the air is perfumed with cedar oil and fear. You're standing in the marble halls of madness. This is the story of Commodus Emperor, gladiator, God in his own mind, and perhaps one of the strangest rulers Rome ever endured. Commodus was born into privilege, the son of the philosopher Emperor Marcus Aurelius, a man who preached duty, logic, and restraint. His reign is remembered as the last breath of Rome's so-called Golden Age. He led armies. He pondered the universe. He wrote Stoic meditations that scholars still quote today. And then, there was his son. From the start, Commodus was different. Unlike his father, he had little interest in books or battlefields. He preferred wrestling to reading, animals to advisors. He was the kind of boy who might demand a lion cub for breakfast and throw a tantrum if the meat was too cooked. Even Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic himself, seemed worried. Some historians believe he wanted to pass power to a wiser man. Others argue he had no choice. Commodus was his blood. Rome, after all, was still clinging to the illusion of dynasty. When Marcus Aurelius died in 180 CE, Commodus became emperor. Almost immediately, Rome changed. The Senate, once the beating heart of Roman politics, was sidelined. Powerful advisors rose, then fell mysteriously. Assassinations began. The empire, once ruled by reason, now bent around the whims of one deeply insecure man. Commodus was obsessed with image. He believed himself divine, specifically, an incarnation of Hercules, the demigod hero. He wore lion skins. He carried a club. He even renamed Rome to Colonia Commodiana, the colony of Commodus. That's right. He renamed the eternal city after himself. He demanded people worship him. Statues were erected, showing him not as an emperor, but as a muscular, godlike warrior. And what better way to prove your godhood than to step into the arena? Unlike other emperors who merely watched games, Commodus fought in them. He entered the Colosseum, sword in hand, wearing golden armor. Of course, his opponents were often wounded, disabled, or outright staged. But to Commodus, it was glorious. He once killed 100 lions in a single day with a bow. He charged ostriches. He decapitated giraffes. He even dressed as a gladiator in front of foreign diplomats, a shocking breach of Roman dignity. He didn't just want power. He wanted applause. He demanded payments for each victory in the arena. According to sources, he charged the city 1,000,000 sesterces per performance, a staggering cost for performances that were essentially live-action ego worship. And yet, people feared him too much to laugh. As the years passed, his paranoia deepened. He saw plots everywhere. He executed nobles. He banished relatives. Even his beloved concubine, Marcia, tried to steer him toward stability until she ended up on one of his many death lists. That was the final straw. In 190 CE, a conspiracy was born. Marcia, along with the emperor's own chamberlain and praetorian prefect, arranged his death. Poison failed, so they sent in an athlete, a wrestler, to strangle him in his bath. Commodus died not in battle or at a podium, but in silence, naked and alone. His death was met with relief. The Senate declared him a public enemy. Statues were toppled. His name was erased from monuments. Rome had nearly collapsed under the weight of one man's delusion. His reign marked the end of the Pax Romana, the long peace Rome had enjoyed. After Commodus, a storm of civil war, assassinations, and chaos would follow. And yet, he left a shadow that never truly faded. Centuries later, his bizarre legacy inspired playwrights, novels, even Hollywood films. Gladiator, they called him. God, he called himself. But in the end, Commodus was perhaps just a lonely man, desperate to be seen, heard, and applauded, even if it meant setting an empire on fire. Breathe deeply now. The noise of the Colosseum fades. The roars and cheers dissolve into something more hushed, more secretive. Tonight, we descend beneath the surface, past the streets, past the sewers, into chambers lit by flickering oil lamps, into whispered rituals, sacred oaths, and ancient gods Rome tried to forget. This is not the religion of Jupiter and Mars. This is the world of the mystery cults, hidden religions, and esoteric practices that flourished in the shadows of the Roman Empire. Picture a small underground cave. The walls are painted with celestial symbols. At the center, a carving of a young man in a Phrygian cap, plunging a dagger into the neck of a bull. Blood spills onto the ground. A dog, a serpent, and a raven encircle the scene. This is Mithras. His cult spread like wildfire among Roman soldiers, merchants, and slaves. But no women were allowed. The rituals were secret. Initiation was harsh, and the symbolism deliberately obscure. Initiates passed through 7 grades. Each grade tested the soul, the mind, and the body. The final reward? A glimpse of salvation, or so they believed. No holy texts, no sermons, just symbols, silence, and a promise of eternal rebirth. We still don't know exactly what went on in those caverns. That's what makes it so haunting. Born in Egypt but embraced by Rome, the Isis cult offered something rare, a personal, emotional relationship with a goddess. Isis was the divine mother, the protector, the one who wept for the dead and healed the sick. Her temples smelled of lotus and cinnamon. Priests in white linen sang her hymns. Initiates fasted, purified themselves, and underwent complex rites of death and rebirth. Unlike many Roman gods, she promised compassion. Her worship was especially popular with women, freed slaves, and the poor. Rome tried to ban her worship multiple times, but each time, the goddess returned. Her cult persisted for centuries, outliving even the traditional Roman religion. Not all cults were welcomed. In 186 BCE, the Roman Senate uncovered a series of hidden rites held by worshippers of Bacchus, the god of wine and ecstasy. The Bacchanalia involved nighttime gatherings filled with music, intoxication, and unrestrained abandon. But to Roman authorities, it was more than just wild partying. It was dangerous. Secret societies meant secrets. And secrets in Rome often meant conspiracy. Thousands were arrested. Many were executed. Temples were destroyed. Laws were passed restricting religious assemblies. It was the first time Rome truly panicked over a religious movement. What's chilling is that much of what we know comes from Livy, a historian who might have exaggerated the chaos. But something happened, something unsettling enough for Rome to strike with force. Even outside the formal cults, Rome was full of minor spirits, household deities, and sacred taboos. Each home had a lararium, a little shrine to the family spirits. Offerings of wine, bread, or coins were made daily. Some Romans whispered prayers to Manes, the spirits of the dead. Others avoided naming certain gods out loud, fearing they might draw attention. There were gods of doorways, Janus, gods of the hearth, Vesta, and even gods of rot, mildew, and dung. Religion wasn't something you believed in. It was something you practiced, daily, routinely, superstitiously. When Christianity rose, these old cults were labeled as pagan. Their temples were abandoned or destroyed. Sacred rites were forgotten, statues buried, stories lost. And yet, under churches and modern streets, archaeologists still find fragments, altars, symbols, bones, coins. A Mithraeum beneath a church in London, an Isis temple hidden under a Roman bath in Germany. Stone masks carved with eyes that have seen things we never will. The cults are gone, but the silence they left behind still echoes. You've climbed the stairs. You've passed the guarded door. Now the scent of roasted boar, honeyed wine, and perfumed oils wafts toward you. Gold gleams in the lamplight. The laughter is slow and practiced. You've entered the villa of a Roman patrician just in time for the cena, the Roman banquet. But this isn't just a dinner. This is status theater, a ritual of power, excess, and spectacle. The wealthy Roman's home wasn't just a dwelling. It was a statement. You'd arrive through the atrium, welcomed by marble columns and a bubbling fountain. Slaves would take your sandals. Your eyes would be drawn upward to painted ceilings depicting myths, and downward to mosaics showing battle scenes or sprawling gods. You'd pass the tablinum office, maybe catch a glimpse of important documents, or busts of the family's ancestors, each a reminder of power and legacy. And then, finally, into the triclinium, the dining room. 3 couches arranged in a U. You'd recline on your left side, elbow on a cushion, feet pointed away from the food. Yes, Romans ate lying down, unless you were a slave or a woman, though some elite women bent that rule. The center of the room, a low table, heavy with dishes, gilded bowls, silver spoons, crystal cups filled with spiced wine. The Roman cena had multiple acts: gustatio appetizers, olives from Hispania, oysters from Britannia, dormice stuffed with nuts and herbs, wine mulled with honey and saffron, prima mensa main courses, roast peacock, flamingo tongue, wild boar in fermented fish sauce, garum, goose liver, what we now call foie gras, first perfected by Roman farmers, secunda mensa, dessert, dates soaked in wine, honey cakes, cheese with poppy seeds, exotic fruits from across the empire. But not everyone ate the same meal. The closer you were to the host, the better the food. At the far end of the table, cold cuts, stale bread, maybe leftovers. Your portion reflected your importance. Banquets weren't just for indulgence, they were opportunities to show off intellect. Poets recited verses. Philosophers debated stoicism versus hedonism. A visiting senator might flatter the host or subtly mock a rival. Wit was power. A single insult, delivered with charm, could earn you admiration or exile. And yet, underneath the eloquence was danger. Rome's elite lived under the eye of emperors, spies, and shifting alliances. Say the wrong thing, you might wake up tomorrow with your villa seized, your family name disgraced. Or worse, you might not wake at all. While guests dined, entertainers performed. Greek slaves recited Homer. Musicians plucked lyres and pan flutes. Dancers spun slow, hypnotic routines. Dwarves, jugglers, and illusionists evoked awe or laughter. And in darker corners of Rome, some hosts offered blood, exotic animals chained for display, gladiators forced to spar after dessert. These were the feasts of emperors like Caligula, where cruelty replaced conversation. To fund such extravagance, Roman elites squeezed every coin from their estates. Slaves worked the fields, tenants paid taxes, corrupt governors skimmed from provinces. A single banquet could cost the equivalent of a small town's yearly income. And yet, not hosting such a feast, a sign of weakness. You'd be mocked, forgotten. Your political ambitions would rot like untouched fruit. For the Roman elite, excess wasn't just preference, it was duty. The candles burned low, the jokes grew slower. Some guests drifted into stupor, lulled by wine and warm oil massages. Slaves cleaned the floors in silence. The host, finally alone, walked through the empty triclinium and wondered what the poets would say tomorrow.